That got fixed as the election day?
They probably set it the second Tuesday in November because that was the day that black people had to work.
Ah, could well be. Anyway, welcome to our conversation. Pleasure, welcome to the program for a second time in the recent experience with Woody Henderson, stalwart member of the MNN community here. Puts out a great program consistently, and he's been involved in politics. He's been involved in politics. He's been running for the city council. He's running for the city council election, which is, I've just been informed again, is on November 8th. And everybody's encouraged to go out and vote. And we're going to talk about the election process, the political process at the city council level, and his own campaign. And Woody, once again, welcome very much to Conversations. It's always good talking with Woody Henderson.
And it's good talking with you, Harold. I love having conversations.
I love having conversations with you too. Share your own background a little bit, and then let's get into, let's get down to the nuts and bolts of this new party that you're involved with. But would you share a little of your background for the people who might not know you from your own program, but share just a little of your background, and then let's get into some of the politics, city council.
Well, actually, I'm a producer here at MNN. I produce a TV program called A Struggle for Justice. Comes on every Monday night at 10 o'clock on Channel 34. And my main issue is the child welfare system. I believe that that's one of the most devastating things to our community is the negative impact of the foster care system and the family courts on children and families and communities of color.
Amen.
Which we can talk about, and we have talked about before.
Absolutely.
I'm a former court-appointed special advocate. I'm currently the president and founder of the Organization for Reunification and Rehabilitation of Children and Families, and a former president and aide to Rev Al Sharpton at the National Action Network.
Okay, good.
And that's actually where I finally decided to really get involved in politics, because in working with him to try and have an impact and a change on the way the family courts work, my mentor and spiritual leader is the Dr. Wyatt T. Walker, who was Martin Luther King's chief of staff, and also the man that Nelson Mandela said was most responsible for building up the groundswell for sanctions that eventually caused the demise of apartheid and his freedom. And Dr. Wyatt T.
After 27 years.
That's a long time.
It sure is.
I consider myself committed, but that's another level.
And to come out with such honor and to be such a, he's a stalwart figure that is an inspiration to everyone.
It would seem like he would have come out after all of that full of hatred, but then again, he didn't go in with hatred.
Right.
But his whole purpose was about equality and freedom and justice, which is what this country is supposed to be about. And that's one of the reasons that I'm running for city council. I think we need some changes. I believe that this could be a great country. The founding fathers had this statement that's more than a statement in the Bill of Rights. We, the people of the United States, in order to form a more perfect union, establish justice and ensure domestic tranquility. I like the way that sounds.
Those are good words.
If we just establish justice, and they said, to form a more perfect union is a recognition that our union is not yet perfect, but we can make it so. That's what that was the purpose of that statement.
There was a lot of political wisdom among the it was a real gathering of political, thoughtful wisdom coming out of the Enlightenment and so forth. It really was.
There was a
magic moment in the political evolution of the planet, but it was not perfect.
It was not perfect, and they recognized that, which is why the amendments were put in place, because they recognized that the Constitution is a living document.
That's right. It's going to evolve with the times coming ahead.
And it's got to change. That's why we were able to get women's right to vote. We were able to get
rid of slavery.
Get rid of slavery. All of these things that really have a negative impact on society as a whole.
That's a theme. The society is in a condition where they will justify that they have to have a certain condition, and the political, economic reality does that. But if you look ahead, if you have a looking ahead, you can see that things are going to move toward, as the Declaration said, a more perfect union, that there's going to be improvements that can be seen ahead. If you can put yourself far enough ahead, we'd be able to get a society that maybe does in some way be able to glimmer with real, honest-to-God, systems-wide justice for all.
Right.
We're not there.
Nowhere
We're
near
on the road.
We're on the road. We're making progress.
Mr. King said he thought he had seen this promised land.
And he's been there, and he has seen it, and
like a visionary.
The very fact that he saw it implies that it's not too far away. It's not out of reach. You take a person. We don't look at there are people all throughout history, no matter when you go back, even to and including John the Baptist and Jesus the Christ. If you go back through history, the greatest of those, you want to talk about Mahatma Gandhi, the greatest of those were always those who had a way of irritating society and the status quo.
Yeah.
And by doing that, it caused it growing pains, and it caused it to grow. That's one of the reasons that I stand with and have fought with and for so long with Rev Al Sharpton.
Yeah,
because
right.
I believe what he does, it causes society to improve. That it can't just remain there. That so many of those who make decisions have a different vision, and that vision is not for equality and justice.
It's to vouchsafe the power to those who already have it.
Who
and
got
power
more?
hardly ever gives way without some sort of struggle from below.
So
does it?
said Frederick Douglass.
Did he?
That power,
Frederick Douglass was great.
Power concedes nothing without a struggle, never did and never will. And that's why we have to continually fight.
And he was way ahead of his time.
He absolutely was way ahead of his time.
My daddy used to say to me, son, it's good to be ahead of your time, but not too far.
Not too far.
I don't know if that makes sense or not, but if you get too far ahead, then you're not practically able to adjust to the possibility, and you're trying to get in that right spot, which is ahead of the time, but is also able to be pragmatically in touch with the reality to make real change.
That's why this new party...
I believe that's where you are.
Absolutely. You hit it so beautifully. That this new party that I've started, because so many people are talking about the problems with the Democratic Party and the Republican Party and the status quo, that we need a new party. We need some new independent political options. And this new party, the War Veterans Party, is a party for peace. Because those who have been to war know better than anyone that war is not the answer. It's not the answer. And so...
And that's one huge overriding issue, isn't it?
Absolutely.
Yeah, right.
You know, strength is not the ability to conquer your enemy. Strength is the ability to make your enemy your friend. And one of the things that we want to do with this campaign, I'm still a registered Democrat, been a Democrat all my life, still believe in democratic principles like affordable housing, a first-class education for our children, decent and affordable health care for seniors, decent jobs with a fair living wage. I still believe in all of those things, but I also, as a member of the War Veterans Party, want to make certain that George Bush doesn't close the VA hospital on 23rd Street. And that those young men and women who are suffering over in the Middle East now, that when they return home, they don't end up homeless on the streets like so many of those after Vietnam and the First War.
Homeless all over the place.
They're still out there.
After being spat upon by a lot of people because there was so much anger against that war that they were fought. And it's silly, silly, silly to blame the guys.
Right.
You want to put your ire at the policymakers.
I think we as a people
not the guys who are the fodder.
Right. I think we as a people are at that point now where we understand and we try to say it. That's why we call the War Veterans Party the Party for Peace. And we make a point. We're not an anti-war party, and we're not a war party. We are, I have no son. My son is, as I said to you before, is a member. He's works at the Pentagon at the National Defense University.
Really?
My father was a victim of World War II and spent his entire life in the VA hospital. What we're trying to say is that I have no problem with my son or my children fighting in a just war, but not in an unjust war like we're involved in now.
When was the last time we fought in a just war?
I think it was World War II, but I don't know.
Korea was iffy. I was in that.
It was iffy. I don't know the answer to that either. That's why I say
Vietnam was, as Mr. McNamara said, a mistake for which 4 million Southeast Asians died, and nobody, you'll notice, ever went in the dock for destroying 4 million human souls for our mistake of misjudging a nationalist thing for something in communism, and the winners never do.
And we're on the verge right now of reaching that plateau that we didn't want to reach of 2,000 of our young men and women dying over in.
I think we've crossed it.
If not today, tomorrow, or the next day, which is one of the things we're holding a press conference on today, later today, right in front of the VA hospital. One of the things that we're trying to say, George Bush is saying that there hasn't been a major terrorist attack on our soil since 9/11. But what he's not saying is that we've lost 2,000 lives, and whether our soldiers are dying, whether our young men and women are dying on this soil or on foreign soil, they're just as dead. This has got to be about peace. Instead of just having a Defense Department, which in reality he's using it like it's a War Department or an offensive department, we need a peace department. And again, the War Veterans Party is the party for peace. And I'm proud to be the first person to actually make the ballot on this party line.
Good for you. You lead. That's good.
Hey, I had thought about it. Yeah, I'm on the cutting edge.
George Bush, George W. Bush seems to be in some real trouble now. He's got that trouble with that Supreme Court justices, like from all sides.
Yeah.
His approval rating by the National Society, where it was very high after 9/11 and that sort of thing, they've squandered all that, and it's down to about 38, 39%.
Right.
And that's down to about where Lyndon Johnson was in 1968, when the pressure against him for pursuing the thing in Vietnam was so high, nation was torn apart, that he did not run for president again. He did not, I will not run for president in 1968. But George Bush seems to just keep pursuing his view of saying that they're going to fight him over there rather than here and that whole thing. But I think he's in deep trouble after Katrina and so forth.
After Katrina, it's unbelievable that what happened there. That, in other words, we can't protect ourselves here.
Yeah, that's right.
That we'd rather spend those hundreds of billions of dollars to wage war as opposed to using it to develop this country. Education. I mean, what could those 200 billions of dollars done? Every time there's a problem with education, we're talking about smaller classrooms. We can't find the money. When we're talking about affordable health care for seniors, we can't find the money. I was talking to another one of the producers from here, a great woman, and I'm sure you know, Florence Rice, who's been evicted from her apartment.
Yeah,
She's been out of her apartment. The city is not helping her. Here's a woman that's 86 years old, that's still on the front line fighting the struggle.
To get out there and work.
And not only out there, but she's not getting any help. We need to take care of our seniors. I mean, when people get to that point in their life, if they've done nothing, just the fact that God granted them 80-some years of life, they deserve something special, because they didn't get there just by accident.
That's right.
So
you picked a particularly gorgeous lady in Florence Rice. She's one of my heroines.
Oh, yes.
She's great. And she's representative of a lot of people who have not been well treated. I don't think the system ever treats very well the people that don't have the power.
No. And it's interesting that she is one of the people that kind of puts me in the mind of a Rosa Parks. She has that mentality that she's willing to stand against unjust laws. What's her name? Sidney Sheehan, is it?
Yeah, I think
she's also in that vein in her efforts to try to stop this war. Unfortunately, she had to lose her son before she realized the importance of standing against this injustice. But I think we can do this. I'm asking people to come out to vote. During the Democratic primary, and I ran on the Democratic ticket.
I know you did, for the 9th District.
For the 9th District, Central Harlem. That's the area that covers Central Harlem, Morningside, and the Upper West Side. Where Bill Perkins was the councilman.
Was he running for borough president?
He was running for borough president.
How did he do?
He didn't do well,
no, I'm sorry.
number-wise, but you know, that's another issue. My main interest is trying to get people to understand that we have more to gain by coming together. But at the same time, we need a warrior for peace. And that's what I am. I'm an activist, a warrior for peace. I'm a warrior for Harlem.
Dennis considered if he was running for president, he didn't have a chance, but he was running for president, and he was going to set up a Department of Peace.
Dennis Kucinich was a good man.
Yeah, absolutely. How come all the good men never are able to do it? It's only the scallywags that seem to get elected.
Well, because of the ruthlessness of their orchestration and what they're trying to do. They still believe in that fact of greed is good. That's the thing. They don't seem to understand, and a lot of people in positions of power, especially like on Wall Street and those developers in the Bloomberg line, he talks a lot about affordable housing, but it's not affordable for people like myself. $1,500 a month is not affordable for a Florence Rice or for Woody Henderson, for that matter. It's just not affordable for many, many people. If you lift the bottom of society, the top will automatically rise. So it's in the best interest of society to look out for those on the bottom.
Always has been, but never has been the case. Except through great struggle, has there any been a concern by the people in Lord Acton, you're familiar with, right? Lord Acton said power, and one could say probably money even, but power tends to corrupt. Absolute power corrupts absolutely. I wonder if you could apply that to wealth. Money tends to corrupt. Absolute overflowing money corrupts absolutely.
You
I
can
don't
only
know.
you can only put
You can only get so much greed
Right.
into a bag of
you can only, I always say you can only put 8 ounces in an 8-ounce glass.
All right, yeah.
Everything else is wasted. So I don't care how much you pour.
Mhm.
You only need so much. I mean, there's a time. One of the things I want to do and implement as a if I get in is to introduce a resolution requiring that corporations and developers that's doing all of this development in New York City and especially in Harlem, where I hope to be the representative, is that these corporations, that they're entitled to make a profit because we're a capitalistic society. But after that profit gets to a certain point, that we should put what I call a profit cap. And all the profits that's made above that, a certain portion of those profits should be set aside into an escrow account to help offset the tax burden. Bloomberg is talking about increasing the tax. And instead of that, we should be talking about decreasing tax. We should talk about how do we make this more affordable for people. Children in school, there should be no reason. If we can find $200 billion to send off to fight a war in Iraq, why can't we find $2 billion to correct the problems in education? In Harlem, we should have a vocational and a technical school. The VAs, the veterans who are out there on the street, those young men and women who have fought for this country, whether we consider the war just or not, they fought for this country because that was their duty. And as I tell my son, you are in the military, you must be part of that military, but yet you have to still stand up and say there is a time and there are certain things that I will not do.
Is he an officer or enlisted man?
He's a petty officer in the Navy, first class, and he, as I said, he works in the Pentagon. I'm very proud of him. He was aboard the USS Nimitz off the coast of Iraq. Again, very proud. He was aboard the USS Kearsarge, which is an amphibian assault ship that when it rescued Scott O'Grady, who was the pilot that was shot down in Bosnia, well, he was part of that crew that went over to rescue them, and that's when he first found out. He called me back from the ship. He said, "Dad," he said, "they're trying to kill people over here." He said, 'cause before that, you know, he hadn't really come in contact.
How old the boy is?
He's older than I want to say. He told me if I say his age, he's going to beat me.
Well, then don't do it. I don't want the boy beating you.
No,
sir,
because I never beat him when he was little.
He's getting big now.
He
right?
is
Remember,
big.
he was little. Now he gets big. You don't want to do that.
But no, he says it with a smile.
I understand. That's really good.
And,
so you're running into, that's a new party, right?
It's a new party. The War Veterans Party was founded by a group of veterans in the Bronx. And they put together a slate from mayor to a public advocate to a comptroller and different council members from around.
And it's just coming into birth now?
This is just coming into birth.
Okay.
But everyone on that line was knocked off or didn't make it. I'm the only one that survived. So the party, when you go there, when you go to the ballot, you'll see like the Democratic line, Republican, conservative, liberal, working families, and then you'll see the War Veterans Party. We'll be the 6th line.
6th line.
And I'll be the only name on there, out of 6.
Out of 6?
Yes.
For the, are you talking now for specifically the 9th Council?
Specifically for the 9th Council District. It won't be anywhere else. But I'm honored that, first of all, that they came and asked me to represent them because they know what I stand for and the issues that I fight for.
Yeah, word gets around about Woody Henderson.
I'm honored. I mean, I'm really honored.
Sure.
Because people say, well, you've never been in the Army. You're not a war veteran. I am a war veteran. I'm a veteran of the war on poverty. I'm a veteran of the war on racism and discrimination. I'm a veteran of the war on drugs. I'm the veteran on the war of unequal opportunity. Oh, definitely the war on ACS.
Yeah, absolutely.
Definitely the war on family court.
From the beginning,
You know, so
I know.
I think that there are such things as a just war.
And you're fighting that war, if I may say so. You're in the trenches.
Absolutely.
And on the barricades.
And in the front lines.
And
There's
in the
absolutely
strategic
no question
war
about it.
room.
I think
Putting
that,
it together,
So, I mean, I appreciate you having me here on the show. And
No,
a
it's
chance
my
to,
pleasure, always. I always enjoy it. We've talked to each other over the decades. And I really appreciate that very, very much and everything. I'm really happy to have you here and wish you all the best in that. Now, so you've got, is it going on in other parts of the country? Is it just New York?
Right now, it's just in this part of the country. It's just in New York.
There
are other efforts around, but everything has to start somewhere.
Yeah, that's right.
And
like
for me to have taken it this far to get there, because if you remember when I ran for the Democratic primary, there was an effort to stop me from getting on the ballot, and I became the first person in New York to go before the Board of Commissioners and plead a case and have the Board of Commissioners reverse a decision, which tells anybody out there listening that I do have the ability to negotiate on behalf of those whom I represent. I've written 2 resolutions that are sitting in City Council right now. Over 20 members of the City Council have endorsed, co-sponsored, and adopted these resolutions.
What were they about?
They were to change the way the child welfare system currently negatively impacts children in
Good
communities
for
of color.
you. That's
and
needed.
to change the way the family courts work, because family court is unconstitutional.
Yeah.
Because in family court, you don't have to be confronted by your accusers. And the
it
Constitution
goes by rumors and all kinds of things. And everything.
right.
They take the children away based upon unallegated rumors.
Based on allegations.
Yeah.
And the Constitution says that you have a right to be confronted by your accusers. No one can take that right from you.
They
but
take
the family
them
court
away
has
with
done
such
that.
abandon.
And then and do nothing with
And
them.
I'll tell you something that doesn't make sense, because if I remember right in this thing, it is not sensible that 98% of the people, the kids that are taken away, they take away your child.
Yeah.
98% of them are black and
or Latino.
Hispanic.
Yes, absolutely.
Now that doesn't make sense.
It doesn't make sense unless they're saying, because only one less than, because there's Asians also, less than 1% are white. So maybe what they're trying to explain to us is that white people have no problems in their families.
Yeah, right.
Either that or they're providing appropriate services
Yeah.
or treating them on a different level. And we're always talking about leveling the playing field. I certainly don't want to see any white children forced off to go off into foster care.
No.
But I don't want to see it happening to other children.
But the disequilibrium in that should be staggering to everybody.
Yeah.
I mean, it's a huge issue, and you've been pursuing that diligently ever since I can remember, and I congratulate you enormously. It will come to the surface.
And if the people in District 9 who have to understand that, they say, well, I don't want to go out and vote because my vote doesn't count. Your vote absolutely counts. Yeah. Because what happens when you allow 18% of the people to go out and vote, and you stay home and vote.
That's all that voted in the primary?
All that voted was 18% of the registered voters. Now, of the 18% of the registered voters,
right, okay.
That meant that 82% of the people didn't vote. So 82% of you allowed 18% to make a decision on how your lives are judged.
Right.
They're going to elect a mayor. They're going to elect a council member. They're going to elect people. If what you want to do is stop allowing the same type of political people to make decisions just because their names appear on the Democratic line.
Yeah, right.
You have to say, I'm voting for change. People say, well, I'm not going to vote for you because you don't have a chance. You don't vote for candidates like you play the horses. You bet on the horse that you think can win. But when it comes to electing political leaders, you have to vote for the person that has your interest at heart. Because if you vote for somebody just because you think they can win, and they win, you still lose.
Yeah, because they're going to ignore you.
Right, so it's better to vote for somebody who doesn't have a chance, because at least your dignity is intact. And when your dignity is
intact,
intact,
you might get something started.
And your self-esteem comes up. And that's what we're trying to do with this War Veterans Party. Get something started. Go out and make a statement to the Democrats, the Republicans, and all of those out there that I'm tired of taking business as usual and expecting different results. If you want different results, you got to do something different. And what you can do different is on November the 8th, go to the polls, let's shake up the system, and vote for Woody Henderson on line 6. It's time to call people and say, we're going to do this. If you don't vote for nobody else, vote for something different. I'm tired of people complaining.
Okay, what separates you, Woody Henderson, or from the war, what do you call it again?
The War Veterans
War
Party.
Veterans Party, from the Republicans, or the established system that's in place, and are there others that you would be able to be in league with? We have the Greens.
Right.
We have all the Trotskyites.
Right.
And we have the socialists. But what is it that you're, in a sense, saying sets you aside from the political process that seems not to be able to serve the interests of the people you would represent as well as they should be represented, or even be the kernel of a movement for a real national attention to the issues that you think are really important for the people? What sets it apart?
Well, one of the things that sets it apart is that I'm still a registered Democrat. I still believe in democratic principles. I believe in a democratic society. What sets us apart is that we're not obligated and not controlled by the democratic machine. We're not controlled by party politics. In other words, we put people ahead of party. And when I say we, there's really not a we in that sense, because I'm speaking for myself. And that was one of the things that really convinced me to run. When I was asked to nominate, when I was nominated to run for this party,
and you were there in the primary on the War Party.
I was on
the War Veterans Party.
I was on the Democratic Party,
and also,
and at the same time, on the War Veterans Party.
Gotcha.
So you
Okay.
can run on more than one.
So you had done
line.
that before. Yeah, you had
Yeah.
made that decision before the primary.
I made that decision before the
All right.
primary, but I didn't let it out.
Okay.
I didn't mention it when I was on your program before because it wasn't related. I
Yeah.
think you got to play the game you're in.
Yeah.
And that time we were trying to do that.
Mhm.
And because even as a Democratic candidate, I still would have been my own man.
Yeah,
Which
yeah.
is one of the reasons why I was
don't
certain
think
that the
there's any way Woody
Democratic
Henderson would.
party wasn't going to necessarily stand with me or back me because I wasn't going to go along with business as usual.
I've known you a long time, young man. I don't think there's any way you could be ever. Woody Henderson is going to just do what you said,
Yeah.
that you're just going to go along.
And
I don't think it's in your genetic or your makeup.
No, it's absolutely
Because
not.
you've always stood up for principle ever since I've known you.
Principle is the key. You know, my mom used to tell me, when you stop saying what you can't do, then you can do it.
That's good.
That's the
Have
first
you got
thing.
a trademark on that? Can we use that?
I-
Can we use
we
that? line?
absolutely
What
can.
is it again?
Absolutely.
What'd
when
your
you
mom
stop
say?
when you stop saying what you can't do, then you can do it.
That's pretty good.
That's it.
They're going
And
to
I've
pick
always
that up.
believed
That's
that.
going to be written
Yeah.
by the Goodyear blimp.
Yeah.
Or that, well, yeah, maybe. Yeah.
So
it's a good
says.
campaign. Yeah,
you know,
so
I do,
says.
I
Yeah.
do a whole lot of little pieces that I got from my mom and my grandfather. For my daughter, I call them daddy-daughter things. And like which was one of them I said earlier, which is strength is not the ability to conquer your enemy, but strength is the ability to make your enemy your friend.
Yeah, that's good. That's really that. Well, that's statesmanship.
That's absolutely
That's
it.
really
statesmanship. That's a great thing in a councilman.
Yeah, it is, right.
Absolutely.
Statesmanship, it is. Anyway, but some of the issue, how many of there are you in the party and the people that put that, or in the apparatus? Share the party a little bit. And let me show people here. There's a poster that's been put together. Let them come in on that, if you don't mind.
Yeah,
And we got a
absolutely.
clip we want to make sure we show, right?
Elect Woody Henderson, New York City Council, District 9.
Come in tight if you can. You can see. Look at that smiling face.
Yeah.
Can
Putting
you
the
come
people
in a little
first.
tighter or not? Maybe you can't. There they
There you
come.
go.
There
Come
you
on in.
go.
There you go.
Right
Oh, I
in
like
your.
it.
There it is. And what
And
does it say, Woody? Elect Woody.
Elect Woody Henderson, New
Uh-huh.
York City Council, District 9, putting the people first. Vote Woody Henderson, line 6.
A good idea, I would say. Wouldn't
The
you,
Party
sir?
for Peace.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah, a party for peace. Yeah, okay.
And what you're asking me about the War Veterans Party, the party, like I said, is new. It's not about the party, and that was the thing that attracted me to them. They said, Woody, we're coming to you because we've watched your work as an activist and an advocate over the years. We would like for you, we know what you stand for. I did a play called My Country, Tears of Thee.
What do you mean to play?
You
act?
Oh,
You're an
yes.
actor?
That's actually where my background comes from.
You're an actor? You're a
Yes.
thespian?
A thespian.
Oh, I
That's
didn't
with
know.
a T.
Yeah, yes, of course, yes.
And I wrote this play called My Country, Tears of Thee, which is about my father who served in World War II,
Right.
went into the war. When he went into the Army in the 40s, he owned a grocery store and a restaurant, which is very progressive for a black man in Chicago back in the 40s.
That's where you're out of Chicago,
Yeah.
right? Yeah.
And what happened was that when he came back, he had asthma. He had blisters and boils growing all over his
from the
body.
war, huh?
He was suffering from shell shock,
Yeah.
or which is just a nice way of saying he's mentally
Yeah.
destroyed.
That was
He
terrible.
spent his entire life in the VA hospital.
I'm sorry.
But my mother never got a dime of support from the government, which is one of the reasons I understand how
Disgraceful.
important it is to
The
keep the
veterans
VA
hospital,
hospital
yeah,
open.
right.
Because I know what they did for my father. It was unbelievable.
Yeah.
But yet they do good. There's a guy at the VA hospital by the name of Barry Campbell that's working with
You mean
me.
here in New York now?
In New York.
Down on 23rd
On
Street?
23rd
Yeah.
Street. Barry is known. You're talking about a soldier.
Yeah.
You're talking about a real soldier that's out there fighting for it. Also, there's a group called the Black Veterans for Social Justice.
What is that?
That's
It's
an
a
organization that's filled with vets. It's trying to help them get started.
All
back.
vets? They're all
Basically vets, men
Okay.
and women,
All
and
right.
they've been around for a while. And there's a lot of different veteran groups that are being ignored. How does the president, the commander-in-chief, decide that he wants to close a VA hospital at a time when we have soldiers coming back who are physically, mentally, and emotionally destroyed in many ways, that are going to end up homeless on the street, going to end up not, if not preying on the rest of society, going to end up being a burden on society.
Well, you're
We've
gonna
got to take care of these people that we're asking to go out. The young men that are coming back from the prisons that are so-called.
Right.
I mean, they've been in prisons for no reason. Once they've completed their time, they must be matriculated back into society and have their right to vote. As far as being, you're a felon, you can't vote. You need your right returned. How are you supposed to participate in society? How are you supposed to get back in there?
Wait a minute. Somebody been in prison and a felon, they can't vote?
They can't vote.
Ever?
No, that's the way they try to set it up. But that's not true, because there's groups that have been working on this. One of the things that I'm definitely going to be putting more pressure on is that right. if you're out of prison, by the way, if you know anyone that's a felon and they've completed their time, they can vote if they're on probation or if they've completed their probation. But if they're on parole, there's still an argument. I say you still can vote, and it's your right to do so. If you're out, go register to vote, because you must get back in the system to help change it. People's talking about, I don't want to.
That's a big issue. We got 2 million people, over
Absolutely.
2 million people in prison.
Again,
inordinately directed at the black.
And inordinately, therefore, it's having a negative impact. And those of us who are not, we need to go out and vote. Like I heard a lady, I did an interview on the radio, and I'm really disappointed in the person that I did this with, because she said something I've heard other people say, that I'm just tired of all this marching. I always find it that's the ones who are tired of marching are the ones that don't march. So the hell are they tired of? I don't even know. We need to do this. I mean, when you go back all through history, Joshua marched around the walls of Jericho.
Brought the walls
Sharpton
down.
did a piece on it the other day, and the man is
He's
great.
quick, man.
I'm sorry.
He's really quick.
He is
He
on
could
it.
do stand-up.
And, no
He
question.
could get on the comedy channel.
He could do.
I mean,
he could do it. Yeah. But
could
I mean,
really,
it would be an intellectual comedy
yes,
channel.
it would indeed. Yeah,
and,
it would be serious.
Because
yeah.
I mean, he has nothing but information.
Yeah, he's really
And so many
sharp.
people are so into self-hatred.
Yeah.
Into my community that they've become so.
Well, a lot of people have been bad beaten down.
They've been
man.
beaten down.
You got to beat
and that's
those
why
people
I say,
down a long time.
Harold, it's getting up time.
Yeah.
It's time to get up.
It's time to get up.
It's time to get on up and boogie.
Yeah, and what? Boogie.
Boogie.
Boogie. Boogie.
Yeah,
Yeah, right.
boogie.
Yeah.
It's actually time to get up and do something. We
Yeah,
have to.
it
We
is.
can't take
And that's not only for that, but it's also for the
For
mass of
all
the
the-
people
it's
of
for
the
the
world.
masses.
I mean, Mr. Bush set a pattern with his thing, and it just excuse me. I mean, it was the Keystone thing. He came in with a almost $2 trillion tax cut that overwhelmingly went to the already super wealthy. No wonder there's no money for veterans, hospitals, or schools, or anything else for the people.
And
it's for the super wealthy. They need a new yacht.
Yes, absolutely.
And I mean, and the Democrats went along with it.
The Democrats. That's
And
why I
they
said,
also went along with going into that war. Supine, quiet, didn't do anything.
Absolutely.
And they're there, and they're still
Absolutely.
fighting it.
And the number of people
No
that have
weapons
died.
of mass
And
destruction, no nothing.
They still look at no weapons of mass destruction. There was never a threat from Iraq to deal with us. They're talking about, well, all of the terrorists, and they're calling them insurgents coming in. That they shouldn't be getting involved. Countries like Iran and Syria and these other countries. But how can we come thousands of miles and get involved in that and tell the people who live next door that
we're
they can't get
telling the
involved?
world or people like that there's something wrong with the way they is or something like that. And
Yeah.
it's sort of like, it seems to me like, it's like the white establishment or whatever here taking 98% of the people in New York City, taking their babies away.
Yeah.
Because of some cultural bias thing about how they got to be like some white-bread bourgeois something or else that they've got that they think is human nature or something. That's a big problem on the part of the established
It's a problem of
forces,
arrogance.
saying they got to be like us.
Right. First of all,
dull.
First of all,
in order to survive, like Mr. Milquetoast, you got to be, you know what I'm saying?
But you know,
it's an arrogance of power and a cultural arrogance.
It's a cultural
on the part of this country.
For me to
say
that
the world is rebelling again.
Part of the problem
right now, thing with the war veterans thing is more apropos to the dialectic in the world than perhaps we might realize.
Absolutely.
Yeah, you know what I'm saying?
Absolutely.
Okay.
And you take the situation when you look at the children and what's happening. They're talking about the young black kids and Hispanic kids and a lot of young white kids now getting involved in hip-hop and rap music and how this is negative and the whole thing. It's not true. The problem is that our children would be speaking Chinese, if that's what we taught them. So whatever they're doing is because of what we taught them or didn't teach them. So the child welfare system, getting back to foster care, that allows, that teaches you that you can't discipline your child. You can't spank your child. So since you can't spank or discipline your child, then that child is now running rapid in the streets. The community's out of control. We have to get our own community back in control. It's not just about the government or about politics. It's about us, and that's one of the things that I'll be advocating for. I'll be going into my community, talking with people and meeting with people and forming liaisons in different housing complexes like Lincoln and St. Nicholas and Johnson and other...
Frederick Douglass?
And Frederick Douglass.
Yeah.
Although Frederick Douglass is not geographically sitting in my district,
I see,
but I certainly will,
right.
because I think this is bigger than just my district.
Yeah.
This is about the people.
No, I think it's an example that's got worldwide implications, if I may. It really does. All
absolutely.
that arrogance of power and all that kind of stuff is characteristic of the time in which we find ourselves. And there is something that really needs to change that's going to involve something for the people.
Let's show some
people. Yeah, you've got
because my piece is my piece. By the way, what I'm doing now is called "Let the People Speak," because I believe the people have the answers, and that's what I'm trying to do.
Wait a minute, you think the people have something to say?
The people got something to say.
People have never counted. The people are always just sheep
to
be led around.
Let them eat toast, or was it cake,
sheep
or
to be
whatever
led
it
around.
was.
The emperors of Rome led them around. I mean, the serfs on the feudal estate, they were slaves. They had to be told they were. And now they're just manipulated by PR campaigns, by these things that they run, these political parties that are all corrupt, getting money all over the place and everything like that. So the people.
Let the people speak. I believe the people have the answers.
I'm being facetious.
I know you are.
But I mean, I think really the time has come. Like, you know, there's a time that comes when it's like Mr. King talked. The times are coming to where we may be on the verge of something where the people, for the first time in all of history, they never have. It's always been the powerful ruling over the weak, and now it may be
through the internet.
People are going to actually matter. Yeah.
We have a way of communicating we've never had before.
Right.
We have a way of reaching out to one another that we've never had before.
It's like before there was the slaves. They had some chattel slavery. What the hell was that? People are and then then they get a machine and pick the cotton and everything, and then times change. Well, and it may be the time is there where the people liberation of the people may be actually in the offing for the first time in history.
It's on a world scale. On a world scale, it's going to happen.
Maybe the people of the world are going to rebel against these aristo-wigged people, like in Versailles, that are running things that have no vision that involves the people other than which mafia gang is going to get to run and milk the people next.
George Bush, when he came in, not little Bush, baby Bush, talking about Papa Bush, came in with what? The New World Order.
Yeah.
If you look in an old dictionary or an old book, you see these pictures. One picture says the old world, and the other picture says the new world. The new world is the United States. So this New World Order doesn't just mean new as far as newness is concerned. It means that these people are going to control. And that's what this is all about. Controlling the world.
Of the whole world.
I mean, come on now. Are you serious? First of all, as Martin Luther King said, and others I'm sure, is that in order to hold a man down, you got to stay down with him.
Yeah, all right.
You can't get up, so it's getting up time.
Okay, now, getting up time, and one of the ways for us to get into getting up time is to show you a clip.
Let's show a
clip. You got a piece of video.
It's a piece from my TV.
Okay. Set it up for us, and it's about 5, 6, 7 minutes, I
Yeah,
guess.
yeah. It's a piece of my show, A Struggle for Justice, which comes on every Monday night at 10 o'clock on Channel 34.
Say it again.
A Struggle for Justice, every Monday night at 10 o'clock on Channel 34.
You heard it here.
And also...
Streamed to the internet all over the world.
I forgot about that.
Yeah,
it's worldwide. It's streamed all over the world.
Seen everywhere in the world.
And it's important because right now I'm doing a series called Let the People Speak.
Okay.
So that's what we're going to do. We're just going to go into an introduction of the opening of my show, and we're going to go into, well, let's just take a look at it.
Yeah, let's set it up. Let it up right
Let the people speak.
And let the people speak, and let Woody Henderson speak for the people. Okay.
Hi, my name is Woody Henderson. Welcome to A Struggle for Justice. Today, we're going to take a look at something a little bit different. We're going to do something that you don't see a lot of when you look into television. We're going to let the people speak.
What about you, brother Councilman? How long have you been living in Harlem?
Are you a councilman?
No, that's my name. That's my name.
I've been in Harlem. I've been in New York City over, I'd say, about 20 years. Concerning housing, I think that the rents need to be stabilized, especially for people. Yes. For people, you understand, that has a fixed income. They should have a stable rent for people like that, you know. However, you know, where I live at is pretty all right. But still, they go up every year also. I live in a senior citizen building, and they take care of us pretty good, you know. But other places with other people, the rent needs to be stabilized for them, and I think that the landlords should do more for the building, like fixing it up, especially when it's wintertime or summertime. In the summertime, it gets too hot. In the wintertime, it gets too cold, you know. So you need landlords, in a sense, going to take care of that for seniors.
Well, what about the situation now with all the development that's going on in Harlem? There seems to be so many buildings going up. What would you suggest be done?
Well, I think myself, like the building that's going up across the street over there, I think it's going to be co-op.
Wait. Oh, you mean right here across from the park?
Behind us.
Okay.
And I think that the rent is going to be sky high. Therefore, I won't be able to afford it, but the rich person will be able to afford it. And pretty soon, the rent is going to go up in the whole neighborhood because of that development. And it's going to push more poor people out of the neighborhood and put the richer in. I think that the rich black people that was reared up in Harlem and made their money in Harlem should buy some of these buildings, and all these condemned buildings, buy them instead of moving to California or moving to Washington. Let them buy some of these buildings in here so we can hold Harlem together. Let Harlem stay Harlem. Harlem has mostly, in the years that I've been old as I am, it's been mostly black.
Well, question now, because that's an interesting thing. It's one of the things that I have been talking about, is about a lot of these abandoned buildings and what's going on with them and why we can't buy them. It's been difficult for black people to get a hold of these buildings. It's not so much, from what I've learned, that it's not so much that people don't want to buy the buildings, it's that they're having a hell of a time getting their hands on the properties. That the city owns hundreds of buildings here that the average black person in here can't get their hands on, but somehow, all of a sudden, they're falling into other hands. What do you think about it?
I think like the people be going to Washington for other things, little minor, meager things, they should go to Washington concerning this here for the finance to support these black people that want to buy these buildings. You understand? The only way we're going to do it is just like when Dr. King marched on Washington for voting rights. Let's go to Washington for these rights also.
And if you wanted to say something to the mayor, he comes around talking about all the good work that he's doing. I remember couple of years ago, they closed the firehouse over here, putting people at risk. Do you think that puts the city more at risk with the firehouse being closed, or do you think they need to open it, or it's okay?
Just like they doing about the trains, the number 7 trains, that's wrong. And turning these, putting these fire people out of business over 125th Street, that's wrong also. That's all I got to say about the mayor.
Tell me about that. I want to say that. But what you were just saying about the 125th Street.
125th Street, the fire station over there. I forgot the name of the company.
36.
36 company. Ladder 36.
Engine 36.
Engine 36. You know, it was wrong for him to do that because now, in order, let's say if a fire breaks out in this neighborhood down the street here, people got to come all the way from, I think it's Broadway or Amsterdam, in order to put the fire out, you know, and that puts lives in danger. And I don't think it should be that way. Just like I said before, like the number 7 train, they're taking the conductors off, you understand? Even that is just like engine number 36.
So, Mr. Mayor, if you didn't hear it from me enough, you just heard it from one of the people. If we let the people speak, they'll tell you the same thing a lot of other folks have been telling you. We need that firehouse open. We need our conductors on our trains. People need housing. This is not just about development. This is not just about you and your people making money. People need to have a decent place to live, or things are going to get out of control here in New York City. There's a whole lot going on in this world. You better listen to the people when they speak. Thank you very much, Brother Robert. Thank you very much, sister. And as long as we let the people speak, sooner or later, somebody gonna listen.
Hello, my name is Ahmed, or properly Ahmed. This is my aunt, Makmina Asuni. And I'm going to let her say a couple of words, start us off.
Greetings. We're out here enjoying the vibes in Marcus Garvey Park. And we're glad to be, we're honored to be with our future councilman for Harlem.
Definitely. I read the resume.
And it's wonderful, and we need a change of government. We need people in office who are for the people and who are not for themselves, so that we can come together as a people and better our community, because that's what we need to Sankofa. Look back and go back to the way things used to be when we were together as a people.
Made a lot of good sense, you
Absolutely.
know? And the guy talking about the fire, and that was really good. Yeah.
I led that movement and still involved in it on trying to get the firehouses reopened.
Yeah.
What a lot of people didn't realize, and something that I had said back when they first closed it, before they were closing it, is there was something sinister going on. In my opinion, this is part of what was happening.
Yeah.
By closing those 6 firehouses around the country, around the city,
You're going to get rid of the people.
but what they were planning on doing, this is my opinion.
Yeah.
Now, I can't prove this, so I can't,
Might be provable.
But it's provable.
It might
Believe
be,
me, it's
yeah,
provable.
yeah. People
But
ought to get on it.
if-
Special
right.
prosecutor.
Oh, special prosecutor. That's
yeah.
one of the things, is that by closing the firehouse, that reduced the response time. It's just by deductive reasoning. There's no way. If you take 6 out of, it's going to reduce it by some degree. That degree, if I set a fire over in that corner, the difference between 15 seconds with that fire burning in that corner and letting it burn 15 seconds, no, just 15 seconds, it'll be across this room. Fire expands.
Right.
So what happens is when a house catches on fire and it's burning, so when the houses are burning, the people, by the time the firemen get there, it's a little bit late. So by the time they put the fire out, there's so much damage is done that the people have to be relocated. When the people are relocated, what happens is that when these places are rebuilt or refurbished or torn down,
put up condominiums for the rich.
Absolutely.
Gentrification.
They never gentrification.
Yeah,
That never comes back as affordable housing. So it was another form of gentrification, and I believe that was part of the policy of what was happening, part of the intent. Because the same thing happened out in Williamsburg.
Oh, it's happened all over the country, actually.
Absolutely. It's much of, but this particular piece is like what happened up in the South Bronx.
Right.
It got burnt out. But now they're doing it at a more rapid rate. Also, the mayor has cut back on the number of fire marshals. So the fire marshals have been cut back from about 223 to now about 100. So there's no way
that's a big drop.
That's a big drop.
Yeah.
There's no way that they can follow up by checking all of these different fires to find out if there's arson going on. Because if there's arson going on, and there is some arson, I'm sure going on, where people are burning people out and then taking over these buildings, putting them back together. And they say, well, you can't say that. Yes, I can.
Yeah, you can say it.
I can say I said they can't prove it.
And
they can't prove that it's not.
On top of everything else now. And if they want to do that, if they want to take that attitude, they can do it subtly by taking firings away to let things burn. Then they have to, or if they set a new standard and say you get a little crack in the wall, we're going to tear that building down.
They're doing all of those
types
types
of
of
things. And now
things.
they've got the Supreme Court just passed the thing, eminent domain.
Government
agencies can take over for business interests over the rights of the people who are living there in order to set up something, and that's a very dangerous kind of intrusion upon the rights of the citizens of this country. It's going to fall inordinately, as everything does, on the least advantaged in our society. They just passed a bankruptcy law that falls on the,
Right. So that's why with that, what you're talking about the eminent domain issue, is why my candidacy is so important for people in Harlem. Because what I'm saying, okay, 2 can play this game. Let's take eminent domain and reverse it. Let's say that we're going to use eminent domain. Eminent domain is supposed to be able to take properties from people to provide for the public's good. What I'm saying is, but wait a minute. No, listen. We take the property from the city. These abandoned and vacant buildings that the city controls, that we take this property and that are being warehoused and then provide them for affordable housing for poor seniors who need housing. Why should the mayor be allowed to sell these buildings when we can make big money? It's not just about money. It's about a quality of life. Yes, you look at New York City and it's beautiful. Look at it, how it's